Welcome to Porchlight, a presentation of Porchlight VNA and Home Care, providing top-rate, highly personalized care to individuals and families in the Berkshires and also in the Pioneer Valley, serving western Massachusetts. And often when families and individuals are confronted with their first step into the world of senior care, it can be very confusing in a very complex world that includes challenges with finances and where the right place or right service is for mom and dad or dad. So I'm very happy to welcome to the program someone who works with individuals each and every day on these very issues. It's Paula Almgren. She's an attorney who specializes in estate planning and senior care challenges and issues. So Paula, welcome to the program.
Thank
It's great
you.
to have you.
Thanks.
And you're very well versed in this world, and often when people first are confronted with the possibility of having a loved one need home care or a nursing facility or any level of care, often they're kind of up against the wall because there's so much that they have to do, and there's so little time to figure out what to do. So I sense that one of the things that perhaps people ought to do is maybe plan in advance if possible.
Right, that would help. But it's hard. It's hard to do that. It's hard to do that. Even with my estate and tax planning, where we're doing revocable trust and work like that, I always talk to them about, here's the rules if somebody needs care at home. Here's the rules if someone needs care in a nursing home, because then at least they know. Because everyone hears misinformation generally from other people, so at least then it's in their mind, so that they know if they ever did need care, this is what the rules are. And then a lot of times when I figure things out for people and I say, okay, what if all of a sudden you needed 24/7 home care? How long is your money going to last? And we plug in their income and figure it out. Well, what if I have someone who has 31 years of live-in care? Well, then maybe they're not so worried about a nursing home. So, I mean, that's just another approach to it, but it does help people understand, or maybe they don't have that kind of years, but everyone, at least if they do, they relax. If they don't, then we talk a little bit more about that, and then just help give them all the options and educate them.
So it seems to me that there's a combination of things happening here. Number one, at what level of care does the individual need? What do they have for assets? What may be covered by something like Medicare,
Or community-based mass health, right?
Or community-based mass health, or Medicaid, often as people know that, and what is covered based on, again, because the government says, okay, if you have this type of service, that may be covered, whereas other services may not be covered. That's where your private dollars would have to come into play.
Right.
So it's really this sort of combination and strategic planning that has to go on, especially
Yes.
if it has to go on for, like you're talking about, a longer period of time.
Right. And then also, I'm an accredited attorney with the VA, so I do a lot of work with the VA with a program called Aid in Attendance, and that really helps put in funds when people have a shortfall of care costs. And so that's a tax-free dollar amount. And so when you can lay that money in, that really helps us stretch out the funds as well. Most people come to me and they don't say, I want to plan ahead to be in a nursing home. They say, I want to be home.
Right.
And how am I going to do that? And my husbands will say, what if I die first? I'm worried about my wife. Her income's lower than mine. And when they're a veteran and then they know their wife could have a possible $13,000 benefit, they're so happy about that. Like, that makes a big difference for people.
Those things are very, very important. And one of the concerns perhaps that comes up is that if someone has to go into a nursing facility, what about often the most valuable asset, which is the home?
Right.
And will you be able to keep the home? And will the surviving or the healthy spouse, as it were, the spouse who doesn't need that level of care of a nursing facility or even home care, will that person be able to stay in their home? These are questions I assume that come up.
They come up. The house is, everyone's concerned about their house. Everyone is. And there's different sets of rules depending on what the situation is. So if I have a married couple, there's never a transfer penalty between spouses. I think when we talk about a transfer penalty, it's a look back period for 5 years, and it's 5 years in 1 day. So like a nursing home Medicaid application will say, have you made any transfers in the last 5 years? And in 5 years in 1 day, you can say no. But to protect assets, you have to give them away and wait 5 years in 1 day. And a lot of times, it just depends on the client and their situation. They do or they don't, you know. Especially if it's the client that we say, okay, we know you can stay home and live in care for 27 years. Well, then maybe they don't do the transfer now. But a lot of people who have had their families' homes lost, or you know, the mother didn't do any advanced planning, those clients are saying, I want the house transferred. I get what you're...
And so for people watching and listening, when you're talking about that sort of, often it's called a clawback. I don't like that term.
Right.
But
It's a look back.
But it's a look back. Essentially, you know, if an individual is going to be eligible for, I believe, Mass Health.
Or nursing home eligible.
Nursing home eligible, and that would be covered through Mass Health. Essentially, what Mass Health or the government says is that, okay, you know, we'll cover it, but if, you know, within the last 5 years you transferred a significant amount of money, we're going to look back and we'll consider that those eligible dollars, because one of the strategies may be, I'm guessing you'd know better than me, is to take those assets and transfer it to children or
Right.
some other.
And it's
location.
hard. So each scenario is different depending on the family and what their situation is. You know, when people transfer the house, they transfer it to children usually. The parents keep a life estate so that they're entitled to stay in the home. They receive any income from the property. They have to pay all the upkeep and expenses, the mowing and the plowing and all of that. And then the kids, on their death, when their life estate ends, that goes away, and then the kids own it. And there's no estate recovery. So when you're looking at all of the different options, you know, a lot of times people do want to transfer the house, but there's some negative consequences. This could be a whole program, the pros and cons of a life estate deed. But then if they ever sold the house during the lifetime of the parents, then there's capital gains tax to the kids. So it really makes sense when you want to stay in your home and everyone agrees we're never selling this house until the death of both of our parents. Then it makes sense. And you never know. I mean, a lot of people say, we're never selling the house, we're never selling the house, and then circumstances change. So, but I think what I do really well for my clients is I go through every single option for them. Community-based care, nursing home care, VA benefits, estate planning, what do you need? And then at least they know their options, and then they can make the best decisions.
Let's talk about the VA benefits a little bit, because you know, what I found is, again, this generation now that often may be in this situation. You know, the many individuals who are veterans may not, it seems to me, may not know what they may be entitled to because of they are a veteran. So could you give us an idea of, you know, on a general basis, what veterans may be
Yes.
entitled to?
Right. So there's a lot of different VA benefits. The one that's the money that helps people stay home and pay for care is called aid and attendance. And the aid and attendance is a pension program through the VA. Right now, there's no look back or penalty period for the VA. I think there's going to be one in the future, but right now there's not. And you have to have a certain amount of assets. It used to be 80,000 or less, but now it's this age to income ratio. It's this backward calculation. But so in the VA counts assets a little differently. So if you have an account with 60,000 with your child, the VA only counts 30,000 as yours as the veteran. So so the assets have to be dealt with, and then their care costs have to exceed their income to get the full amount. So a veteran and his wife are home, and their incomes, let's say 3,000 combined, and then their care costs 3,200 a month. So now they have a shortfall because the care costs exceed the income. And so once you get to a negative number, you're entitled to the full amount of the VA aid and attendance benefit. And for a veteran with a frail spouse, it's about $24,000 a year of tax-free benefit. If it's just a veteran alone, it's around $20,000 a year. And then the widow of a veteran's around $13,000 a year. So, and it comes directly to the veteran or his widow, and it has to be segregated, and you have to use that money directly for care, because the VA can come in and audit, and you don't want to have an overpayment with the VA. So here's your bill from Porchlight. you pay them out of that account. And now you still owe them some, you use your own checking account. But every month the money comes in and every month you pay for it, pay
That's
it out.
interesting. And being in the senior care world for a while, I never knew the specifics of that. So I'm thinking if I didn't know that, I'm sure there are a lot of individuals who are veterans who may not have any idea about that. And that's why it's important to get that information out there. And I know you're out there quite a bit. October 21st, I know you're doing an event at Mount Carmel Care Center where you're going to be able to interact with individuals who are coming to the free event. But generally speaking, I mean, Berkshire County is an aging population, right now, and so I think you have more and more families who are dealing with these challenges. I mean, you're very, very busy.
I'm busy, yeah. But it's all positive. It's all really good because, I mean, a family comes in and somebody needs care or they have a diagnosis of something. Everyone sits down. They're all usually freaking out because they don't know. Someone has a diagnosis. They don't know what to do. They're getting all this information from all these different sources, including their hairdressers, which do not give good legal advice. I'm just saying. They really screw
Not
people
one?
up.
Not
No,
one?
I've never. No, I need to do a seminar for them. But so then, okay, then I go through everything with them. And I just want to mention something with the VA. It's that, so there's that aid and attendance benefit. But remember I said if it's a negative number, you get the full amount. If it's a positive number, but between the benefit amount, it's less than the benefit amount, you get the difference. So there's still a benefit, it's just not the full amount. So, and that really makes a difference. VA also provides durable medical equipment. Certain agencies in the Berkshires, Porchlight's one of them, has contracts with the VA, so they provide discount home care. The VA also has some benefits through prescription costs. There's a lot going on in the VA. It's just harder to get it. It's a little harder to get it. But so with that family, I would talk about veterans benefits if I have a veteran and how that all works. And then there's a lot of community-based care options. I mean, Massachusetts, they track the numbers. The state knows they save $77,000 every year. It's somewhere right around there where someone's at home instead of in a nursing home. So we have a program in Mass called a Frail Elder Waiver. So when I have a married couple in their home and one of them needs care, I can shift all the assets to the well spouse, and then the Frail Elder Waiver just looks at the ill spouse individually. And we can put in care for the ill spouse, and then the well spouse supplements. So, I mean, that really, the whole point of the Frail Elder Waiver is to keep married couples home and keep them together.
Yeah, and I think
that really works.
And I think because we're, today able to provide an even higher level of care in the home, everything is sort of shifted, and the sicker, higher acuities are now in the nursing facility. 15 years ago, those individuals were in the hospital, and everything else has sort of followed suit. And now, this higher level of care is being provided at home. In most cases, until you get to a certain threshold, it's more cost effective. We think that way, and so
generally more cost effective.
And so you really, it's the best for everyone to be able to keep people home as long as possible until you get to that threshold, where a higher level of facility care is needed. So, looking at that, you have the veterans, you have the spouse situations, because every situation is different. And
every situation is different. Every family's dysfunctional.
And then when you have all your options, so say you need health care, home care, then who do I choose? Because then there are several options, out there. Porchlight, of course, being one of them, and others. Then that's a whole nother level. And I think at least in this industry, and now in the federal government has now done a 5-star program where they have actually rated the clinical, skilled home care agencies. Porchlight is the only 5-star entity in Western Massachusetts, which is really, really cool, and shows something. But that in itself, at least there's good information out there. People choose to seek it out.
So. Right, that's a whole other thing. They're coming in, they don't know what to do with this loved one who needs care. They're worried about how long are we going to keep them home? Can we afford home care? If there's VA money, can we get that? How is that going to work? And then they have to pick, right, there are some Medicare agencies, so Porchlight has the Medicare arm, and then they also have the home care arm. So it's a matter of choosing, and I really think it's when my family's at home who need care, when it's a fit with their caregiver, they say love every time. We love Suzanne, we love Phyllis, whoever.
Right.
And then it's a great fit, and I think it makes a big difference for people. When they have home care that they're comfortable with and the family works with the person, then it really makes a difference for them in staying home.
And that's another part where it's sort of this Wild West, because based on the insurance also, there are some entities that won't take X insurance, but will take Y insurance. Certainly most take Medicare, but there are particular private insurances that some take and
Do
some
you mean
don't.
long-term care insurance?
No, just normal insurance, but long-term care insurance. Now talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Because that was a very popular thing, several years ago. That I think if people did select long-term care insurance, it was really, it seemed to be a really cost-effective, positive for
Yes.
you. I don't know if that's still available today as it once was.
It's not as available, but it still is available. But, so when someone has long-term care insurance, that's a whole nother, like I look at long-term care insurance, it's a pot of money sitting there. You can't draw on it till you need help with 2 activities of daily living. But then once you draw on it, it's money that's not coming out of your savings. It's coming out of your long-term care insurance. So that makes a big difference for people. I generally find that their health insurance doesn't cover, they don't cover home care, the health insurance. It covers the co-payment in a nursing facility, after your Medicare days run out. I could talk about how that works with the nursing homes. Okay,
Sure.
so if someone needs a nursing home, if they've had the 3 overnights, this is another whole program, but
Yeah.
if they have the 3 overnights in the hospital and they were admitted, so that's another thing. You have to find out, has your mother, father, your loved one been admitted? Because a lot of times they're observed now. So if they're admitted and they had 3 overnights there, and then they're discharged to rehab, like to a skilled nursing facility, Medicare covers day 1 through 20 in full, and then at day 21 they cover everything, but I don't know, I probably shouldn't say the number. I think it's like 648 a day or something. It's 80% covered, and then your supplemental health insurance should cover the rest. But everybody should make sure that their supplemental health insurance covers that 20%, because like I know one AARP program does, one doesn't. So that's key, because it costs like $151 a month, and just 1 day of your Medicare copay covers that whole monthly fee. So everyone should make sure their supplemental coverage covers day 21 starting in a nursing home, because you can get it, but then you're scrambling, so you're better to do that ahead of time. And then if you get the full 100 days, there's a big case that was a federal case called JIMO, JIMMO versus Sebelius. And the JIMO case says you don't have to be improving in a nursing facility to keep getting Medicare. You have to need the skill and be benefiting from the skill. So that improvement standard was like just this standard that was applied that was never a legal standard.
So in other words, if someone isn't necessarily on the road to becoming independent once again, if that's the improvement threshold, or improving by
They have to be
clinical
benefiting from the skill.
Yeah, because you can benefit.
Yes.
You can have an improved quality of life.
Right.
You could be
Yes.
Continuing
Yes.
to walk up and down the hallways instead of being
And maybe
in a
you're never
wheelchair.
going to get better. And the whole
Right.
case was a woman who was home who needed care, who had Parkinson's. So she is not going to get better, but she is keeping up. She's able to maintain. And so that makes a difference. And that's why they said, yes, she can get this benefit. So I think that's just important to know. And there's a website, MedicareAdvocacy.org, and it's a nonprofit group out of Connecticut, and they have self-help packets for fighting. There's really no way to win this not getting admitted. But there's information about that, like what you should say and how you should try to deal with that. And then there's also information on this Jimmo case, which is your loved one's in a nursing facility. You think they're still benefiting from the care. They're being told you're done with Medicare before the 100 days ends, and how to appeal that. And so we used to have an agency that you would win on appeal. And I have a nurse on my staff, so she would tell me medically what to say with these Medicare appeals, and we won them every single time. Now they have this new vendor, so you lose at the first and second level, but you win at the third level. If you really, and she tells me, oh yes, this person's benefiting from this.
Right.
But now, by the time we get to the third level,
and I think,
the person's already having to deal with.
Your firm, I think that's certainly a value added to have the nurse there, because, being able to make these
great.
assessments, because,
I'm
basically
the lawyer.
you're
I don't
able
know. I should not be making medical decisions.
And
she'll tell me, this is what I think and she's my client's nurse advocate, so she's just purely looking at them and trying to help them. She doesn't have any other agenda except tell me, what's going on, and then advise the family.
A former wonderful Porchlight VNA and home care employee.
Yeah, she was.
Indeed, and we love her a great deal, and high quality, and that's very, very important. But to the take-home.
But she doesn't do the nursing. She's an advocate, educate, refer,
absolutely,
that type of thing.
But looking at it, from everything you're saying, what's very clear is it is incredibly complex, and it's even really hard for a lot of us who have worked in senior care long enough that we kind of know those things, the 3 days in the hospital stay, and now there's this sort of observation thing. You got to look out for that, because that's a whole new, but all this is complete Greek to most people. You really need an advocate, someone who's able to sort of take you through that process.
They don't make it easy to navigate. It's not easy to navigate. But that's why, for me in my practice, I'm specialized. I'm not trying to do your house closing. I'm not forming your corporation. I just do. I know really well what I do, and it's estate planning. And there's other Medicaid rules, like, if I have a married couple and they're at home, and then let's say the wife needs care at home, and I've shifted assets to the husband, there's a will the husband can have, and Medicaid allows him to leave everything into a special needs trust for his wife, and they won't count it. So if you don't update your clients' wills, and then the husband dies first, everything's going to go over to the wife. This way, if the husband dies first, everything's in this trust for his wife's benefit. It's like a special needs trust. And then on her death, it goes down to the kids or their beneficiaries.
Paula Almgren, it has been a great pleasure. I've learned so much during this program. So how can people get in touch with you? I know you have a website.
I have a website. It's www.almgrenlaw.com. We're located in Lenox. What we do is when people call who want to meet with me, we send out a questionnaire, and I love it. People fill it out ahead of time, and then it gives me time to figure everything out before they come. So I think our meeting is way more productive that way. And then I just run through all options depending on the client situation. And then I generally, with my fees, I charge flat fees so that people know what they're paying. And then they call me, they talk to me, they let me look at their beneficiary change forms, because they're not feeling like every time they call they're being charged. I think that makes a difference. It took me a while to figure that out, but now I have, and it really works well.
Paula, a great pleasure having you on the program, and definitely a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you.
So thanks so much
for
joining us. And if you caught part of this on TV and you want to see the entire program and missed part of it, go ahead and go to porchlighthomecare.org, and under the About section you'll see our TV show, and Paula's program will be right up at the top because we just recorded it. So so thank you very much, Paula. Again, this has been Porchlight, a presentation of Porchlight VNA and Home Care. I'm John Kroll. Thanks for watching.